Hi everyone, how are you all doing? Sir Stevie here, bringing you a brand new Blackout video. In the video today, guys, I thought we'd do something a little bit different, and instead of me talking you through one of my Blackout wins, I thought we'd answer that age-old question on whether or not it's easier to get a win in Blackout or in Fortnite. To answer the question itself, we've got to look a little bit more in-depth at whether or not it is easier or not, depending on the type of player that you are. Before we get into the video, guys, if you could do me a massive favour and subscribe to my channel and like this video. Really trying to grow my channel at the moment. We're on our road to 100 solo wins on my channel, and we're also on the road to 100 subscribers. So if you could do me a massive favour and help me on my way, it'd be absolutely brilliant, guys. But yeah, without further ado, let's get straight into the video. Okay, well, so when I was looking at whether or not it's easier or harder to win in Blackout as opposed to Fortnite, I thought there isn't one definitive answer, so you've sort of got to break each game into two different categories. At least that's what I've done. So I've basically broken it into, in Fortnite, new Fortnite players and experienced Fortnite players. And then in Blackout, I've broken it down into new Blackout players and experienced Blackout players. So when I was looking at new Fortnite players, I thought if you're new to Fortnite, you are going to struggle quite a bit. Purely the reason being is there's such a huge skill gap between good and bad players. There's a lot more to learn in Fortnite. If you're someone like me and you were used to coming across from a first-person shooter like Call of Duty and maybe Battlefield, it was a huge leap. I wasn't used to playing third-person shooters, and especially with sort of a whole building aspect to it, I feel like there was a lot more to learn. So it was sort of a lot more trial and error with Fortnite. So I'd say, in all honesty, if you're a new Fortnite player, you're definitely going to struggle a little bit more with getting that first Fortnite win, as opposed to if you're in Blackout and getting that first Blackout win. So then moving into the second category, guys, I've gone with new Blackout players. With new Blackout players, that I wouldn't say, if say you're someone from coming across from Fortnite to Blackout because you just fancied a different Battle Royale game, I'd say you're more likely to win at the start. The only reason being is I don't feel like there's as much to learn, especially if you've had a bit of an experience on a first-person shooter, whether you played an old Call of Duty in the past, something like that. All the mechanics are the same pretty much. It does take a little bit of getting used to, I guess, with learning your style of play, whether you're a fast-paced player or a slow-paced player. It depends completely on your style of play. And for me personally, it took a few days to realise which guns do and don't suit me. You don't want to be using guns that you're not comfortable with unless you absolutely have to. So with me personally, there's some guns I can't use. Like, I'm not a big fan of the KM57 and the Rampart, just purely because I've not really learned how the best way is to use them yet. But if you give me a Vapor or an ICR, I'll take that any day over a Rampart or a KM57 easily. Just because it's a gun that I've learned to use and I feel comfortable with, in all honesty. But coming back to that point of, if you're a new Blackout player, I'd say you're definitely a lot more likely to get your first win a lot quicker in Blackout than if you're a new Fortnite player. Just again, I don't feel like there's as much of a skill gap, because you don't really get as many people camping in Blackout. In Fortnite, you can just have someone, if you're a new Fortnite player and you shoot someone in the back who's a good player, odds are you're still not going to kill them. Even though you've snuck up behind them or whatever, they're just going to build like 100 foot above you in a matter of seconds. Whereas in Blackout, it's a little bit harder, because if you come up behind even a good player and you start shooting them from behind, say in the head, or if they've not got armor, or whether they've got armor, odds are you are going to kill them. Call of Duty is a lot like that. The first person who shoots wins, especially if you've got your back to your opponent. So I'd say you're a lot more likely as a new Blackout player to get a win a lot quicker than if you're a new Fortnite player, just in my opinion. And coming into our next category, guys, I've gone with experienced Fortnite players. For me personally, when I was really into Fortnite, I think in one season I was getting like a 20-25% win ratio, which is something I was really happy with. And I felt, in all honesty, if you're an experienced Fortnite player, odds are you're going to find it a lot easier to win in Fortnite as opposed to Blackout if you're thinking that for any reason of transitioning across. The reason being is because if you're on that high end of the skill level where, because as I said, Fortnite is there's a huge skill gap in Fortnite. If you are able to get on the right end of that skill gap, where you're not a new player, you're an experienced player, you're going to find winning games a lot easier, just purely because the only times you'll probably end up dying in Fortnite, if you're an experienced player, is if you're killed by another experienced player. I can't tell you the number of times in Blackout where I've been in like the final 10 and I've been killed by a guy who's got one kill and he's just hiding behind a tree or in a bush or under the shadow of a tree. And for me personally, it's quite frustrating, because I think if, say, I was in a gun battle, I feel like I probably could have beaten that person, because even on the kill cam, they've missed a few bullets when I've been stood still or crawling at a slow pace, something like that. So I'd say as an experienced Fortnite player, you're definitely going to find it easier getting a win in Fortnite as opposed to Blackout, just because you're not as likely to get killed by like a newer, lower skilled player, in my opinion. And last but not least, guys, we're coming into our final category, which is experienced Blackout players. In my opinion, I feel like an experienced Blackout player. I played it quite a bit now. I've played both games for quite a bit. Obviously, I played Fortnite more just because it's been out longer. But I feel with Blackout, maybe as an experienced player, you might struggle more. The only reason being is there's not as big of a skill gap as I mentioned earlier. But as an experienced Blackout player, of course, you have a good sense of the map, a good landing spot, and you know which equipment works for you. You will win the majority of your gun battles, but I still feel like at the end of the day, that skill gap just isn't quite... There isn't as much of a bridge in the skill gap between a new player and an experienced player in Blackout. As I mentioned earlier, you can get killed quite easily by someone who isn't as good as you, just purely because of the fact that they are able... It's easier to hide in Blackout. Let's be honest, you know, in Blackout it's a lot easier. You can go in prone, which you can't do in Fortnite, and you can hide in the shadow of a tree. In Fortnite it's a lot harder to hide from people, just purely because, you know, you can hide behind a tree, that sort of thing. But I feel like it all comes down to that fact that there isn't as much of a skill gap in Blackout. So an experienced Blackout player, of course, will win more than a new player, but I still feel like it can be a bit more of a struggle to get wins as an experienced Blackout player than an experienced Fortnite player. Just again, coming purely down to that skill gap that's going on there. But yeah, in summary, guys, I'd say that if you're going from Fortnite to Blackout, it is going to be easier, especially if you're a new player to either game, just because, again, there isn't as much to learn, and especially if you're used to playing a first-person shooter, then it's going to help you even more. But I'd say if you're going from Blackout to Fortnite, it is a bit more of a struggle. There is a bigger skill gap. There is a lot more to learn, especially if you've never played a game like that with a building aspect. There aren't that many games out there that have a building aspect like that. But yeah, that's just my opinion, guys. Thank you so much for watching this video, guys. I really appreciate all the support that you can give me. Let me know your views on this subject in the comments down below. And don't forget to subscribe and like this video. That's all from me today, guys. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great day. Take care. Bye for now.